Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. Today I am going to be reviewing another ink. This one is from the Ostrich brand, and the color is called Sea of Okinawa. It's a very pretty ink. It's got a lot of things on there that I can't read. So this is supposed to be a high sheen ink, so we're going to see what this looks like. If you are new here, I am also new to fountain pens and inks and all that, so we'll be learning together. And also I would love to see your requests of different like inks and fountain pen type things. Anything that you have a request of, if I'm able to do it, I will do a video. I do not have the funds, just in case you are thinking this, I do not have the funds to buy all the fancy expensive pens. However, the inks and some of the other accessories I may have or may be able to get. So that is mostly what I'm focusing on for reviews right now. Someday, if I'm ever able to get all the pens and, you know, be able to afford to do those sorts of reviews, I will do that in the future. But right now we're focusing on the inks since that's a little bit more within my budget. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and open these, and because I don't want the ink damaged by sunlight, I leave these in their boxes and I try not to damage them. So this box has a matte finish on it, so in theory I could put like a little, or if you had this ink, you could put like a little splotch of ink on there so you could remember what the color looked like. I don't do that, but you could theoretically do that. These boxes are similar to the Birmingham Pen Company boxes. They have the same kind of papery feel to them, so you could also do the same thing with those. If you purchased a box, or yeah, a bottle of ink from them, the box you could mark with ink so you could tell what color was inside. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this. So it's got this cute little ostrich on the top, Sea of Okinawa, and it looks blue in the bottle, but I think it does something cool. So let's find out. Let's set this aside. The first thing I do, the first swatch I do is one of these. It's just an ink swatch rather than on regular papers. And I do it first so that it has time to dry as much as possible before the end of the video so I can show you how it looks, rather than waiting until the next video to show you, which is what I had been doing, which is terrible. Anyway, let's get this open here. I will also be testing it out on 3 different papers, normal copy paper, HP 32, and Tomo River paper. And the reason I do that is because not everybody has access to something like Tomo River paper. Maybe all they have is copy paper or something. This way you can see how the ink performs and see if it's going to do what you want it to do. Because one of the things I found out the hard way is if I see a really pretty ink online, I see how beautiful the swatch is or whatever, the product photos look great. I buy the ink, I go to write with it, and it doesn't look anything at all like it did on the swatches, and I have no idea why. And I found out it's because of the paper. The paper is what does it. So usually it's the paper. All right, so this is how it looks, the blue. And you can see around the rim, if the camera's picking that up, has like a reddish purpley color going on there. So we'll see what this does. Let's find out. Very thick coating on the glass there. All right. Okay, so this is definitely blue, but we'll see if it does anything else while it dries. It's a really, really bright, bold blue. That's pretty crazy. I'll go a little bit more, and I'm going to put it a little thicker down here. Sometimes I've noticed some inks, they show different properties when they're laid down kind of thick in one spot. So we'll see if this does anything like that. We'll clean this off. We'll save that for next time. All right, and now I'm going to write the name. This is C. By Ostrich. And we'll leave that off to the side. Whoops. We'll leave that off to the side to dry. So this is how it's looking so far. Very blue, plain blue and wet. The art on the front, I think this is supposed to show the color of the ink. It goes blue to pink to purple. So I don't know if that's really what we're going to get or not, but we're going to find out. So first we're going to try the regular copy paper. This is just cheap, basically the cheapest copy paper you can get. That's essentially what this is. And sometimes this is all I have available to me, so it's good to know which ink to grab. Oops, I forgot about something. I like to clean it off in between each swatch so that we're getting a fair comparison. All right, let's try that again. Okay. This is also a really pretty bottle. Just like the bottle just sitting there looks really nice. I noticed that some companies make really pretty bottles. This has more of like a classic design, the bottle does. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it looks nice. So very elegant looking, like a simple and elegant type bottle. Although I like all the fancy bottles as well. I wonder if I ever use them all up, if I can like maybe display them or something. Oh right, so this is Sea of Okinawa. Okay, and this is copy paper. And I'm going to do some slow lines. So right now, the ink basically just looks blue. But again, this is copy paper, and I find that any ink that has special properties, typically it's not going to show up on the copy paper. Maybe some shading might show up, or if there's shimmers always seem to show up. The shimmer inks always seem to do what they're supposed to do. I've never had a problem with shimmer inks before. So there's that. If you want something that looks fun but will work on any paper, well, within reason, I recommend shimmer inks for that. So one nice thing is there's a lot of ink on here. This is just going and going. There is a tiny, tiny bit of shading on this, even though this is cheap copy paper. So I don't know if the camera is going to pick this up, but around the edge of these blue splotches here, you can see just a hint of shading. And on these slow lines also, they start out down here. It's like a paler blue, and then as it goes up, it's darker. So there is just a hint of shading in this, but it does just look blue for the most part. So we'll see if that continues with the other inks, or sorry, with the other papers. I'm going to clean this out. All right, so next I'm going to try the HP32 paper. And HP32 paper, if you're not familiar, it's another type of copy paper. However, it's higher quality. It has a smoother writing surface, which I think what is happening is it's helping the ink, like the ink dries more slowly, so it helps it show off its properties before it dries. I could be very wrong, but that is my understanding. And it's not as expensive as the Tomo River paper and the other fancy papers, so this is a good like middle ground for a lot of inks. Some inks you really do want the fancier papers for them to really show off, but for everyday writing, this is okay for a lot of different inks. Maybe they just have like shading or something that will still show up, and you can see that in some of my swatches that I've done in other videos where the HP32 paper looked really, really nice, or the ink looked really, really nice on the HP32 paper. All right, let's try scribbles. And what this does is it lays a lot of ink down, so if the properties are going to show on this paper, a lot of times they'll show up here, so you can get a better idea of how the ink's going to look. This is a really bold blue color. Alrighty. And this is HP32. I'll do some slow lines. Oops. For some reason I didn't want to draw that part of the line. I do have links to these papers down below, some Amazon links, which it doesn't cost you anymore to do it that way, but it helps me out a little bit. So if you feel so inclined and would like to order some paper and use my link, I definitely would appreciate that. And this ink, I don't remember where I got it. So I don't think I have a specific link to it, but I think if you search, you might be able to find it on Amazon, or maybe I should really look up and see. Maybe if I can find it, I'll put it in the description, but I don't know. Don't remember where I purchased this from. Some of these inks, there are some inks that I had to purchase on eBay because I could not find them anywhere else. This might have been one of them. All right, so right now, this isn't fully dry yet, but I'm already seeing some difference in the colors. So like all these slow lines, they do kind of go from like pink to like a red or a purple or something. No, I'm sorry, not pink. Blue. They're going from like a blue to like a blue, or like a darker blue, or like a purpley color. It's kind of neat. And then around these edges here, just like on the copy paper, you're seeing like a darker color around the edges for some shading. And here in the writing, you can see the variation in the colors. So it does start blue here, and then it turns to like a purple or something on the top of the O and on the I. Wonder if the camera picks it up. On the H here, it's a blue, and then it goes to like a purple. And on these slow lines down here, you can see the change in the color. So HB32 is absolutely showing off the different colors. And here up in the loops up here, you can see how the color changes as well. So there is some color variation on this. So the copy paper is, the regular cheap copy paper is not showing off the properties of the ink the same way that the HB32 is doing a much better job. So now we're going to see how it looks on the Tomo River paper. All right. I'm going to dip this, and we'll see how this looks. Hopefully we'll get an even better difference in the colors and show off the different properties even better. We'll see what happens here. And this is what I mean by seeing a really, really pretty ink and purchasing it, and then having it not look how you thought. You can kind of see that with this ink on that copy paper. It just looks blue with maybe a tiny bit of shading, maybe. And then on the HP32, you get this much more dramatic effect just by spending a couple extra dollars on paper. And I've noticed that most of the time, the difference in the way the ink behaves is dependent on the paper that you use, which is not what I ever would have thought. And this is Tomo River. All right, and I'm going to do some slow lines. Some slow lines here. All right, and already I can see a more dramatic change in the colors and the writing. So it looks like this ink is really only going to show off its properties on the nicer papers, which is a shame, but also it's great if you really want the properties of this ink. Like, that's the purpose that you purchased it for. Now you know what you need to do to get it to look like it does in the product description, basically. And we'll draw some more slow lines just to use up the rest of the ink. I wonder how this would look in like a calligraphy, like one of those really broad, I think they're called stub nibs, where you can do like italic calligraphy. I wonder how this would look. That'd be really cool to try. I wonder if it would clog the pen, but I don't think so. I've never had any pens really clog from any ink, except maybe like shimmers sometimes will clog, but those can be washed out. It doesn't like damage the pen, you just have to wash it extra good. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's what the bottle looks like one more time. And I'll put it back in the box while that dries. So we're gonna give this a couple minutes here to dry. What I might do is just pause the video and come back, because the swatch, I just looked at the swatch and it is like liquid. So that's gonna take a few extra minutes. So why don't I pause this, and then I will be back, and hopefully the inks will be a little bit drier. 1 minute and seconds for you probably. All right, we are back. So this ink seems to take a long time to dry on the blotch, or sorry, on the large swatch that we made. But on the paper, it does dry. It just takes a little bit longer, maybe by like a few seconds. So that's not an issue for the paper. It's just an issue for the huge swatch that I made off to the side. All right, so first of all, let's compare these. And side by side, so first of all, one at a time. So here is the copy paper, HP 32, and Tomoe River. There's a definite difference. It looks like two different inks. And when you put them together, the difference is way more dramatic. So if you are looking for a more, let's say like a bright, almost peacocky blue, just use copy paper. The color looks really nice. Let's see here. Maybe a tiny bit of feathering, maybe, but whatever. It looks good. It's a beautiful color. And there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of shading around those splotches we made. And on some of these slow lines, you can see a little bit of shading. It's like it's trying really hard, but the paper just isn't giving it the strength it needs to, do its job. And then we got the HP 32 paper here. So now we really see that shading. It looks really, really nice. On those slow lines, you can really see the difference. And even in the writing, all the shading, the shades very, very well. So this would be totally fine just to use on the HP 32 paper. You do not have to buy the Tomoe River paper to see some fun special effects with this ink. But if you're looking for something more dramatic, a lot more variation in the shading, just everything like amped way up, then the Tomoe River paper is really what you want to use for this, for that. So you can see really well here, at least I can. Hopefully the camera is picking it up properly, but there is definitely like a purple, like a dark purpley red almost shading and sheen around that blue. And in the writing here, like where it says Okinawa, you can see it goes from almost that light blue from before. So like that color blue, that light blue, to that purpley color. And in these slow lines, they're just totally, the color is just totally different, the variation really, really shows is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, this is definitely one that will work for the HP 32 paper just fine. You'll see the different variation in colors and the shading and everything, but in the Tomoe River paper is where it really amps it up. So this is going to be a personal preference, and you can see under the light how much that sheen shows off on the HP 30, or sorry, the Tomoe River paper. You really get that sheen, that variety. It's much more subtle on the HP 32, and this is under that light, by the way. So even in the writing where it says Sea of Okinawa, you can see that pink, see? And that's where that pink is coming in. So to see all three colors, it looks like you do need to use the Tomoe River paper. However, if you just want some shading and a little bit of color change, then the HP 32 is fine. And if you like this color blue and you don't mind a tiny, tiny bit of feathering, then copy paper, totally fine. So this is one that performs well on all the papers, but to get to see the reason you're buying this ink, if you just wanted a pretty blue and you didn't care about the shading, you probably wouldn't buy this ink. So yeah, if you want to see all the fancy special effects, you probably want the HP 32 at least, or something like Tomoe River paper. All right, and then here is that swatch that we made. And that was as dry as, I think this is finally dry now. Let me show you this under the light. So here is this by itself, and then under the light, you can see that pink. Remember how on the box it showed it going from that blue to purple to pink. And so this is the blue to purple by itself. You can see the shading, the blue and the purple, and then you shine a light on it, and that pink comes through. So this is a really neat ink. Very pretty. And very unique as well. So I don't know if I have any other inks like this. I will have to look and see what I got. So when we do reviews in the future, you might see some more really pretty, blue to purple to pink colors. But that is what that looks like. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. And if you did, please click like and subscribe to see more. And hopefully I will see you again in another video soon. Have a wonderful day.